Hello, everyone. It's your boy Darrell Owens, and this is Green and Gold over everything. And this is episode 12 as we enter week 13 of the NFL season. Tonight, you'll see the Green Bay Packers take on the Kansas City Chiefs in prime time from Lambeau. Patrick Mahomes versus Jordan Love. That is going to be a interesting matchup, a fun matchup, a big test for the Green Bay Packers as they take on the defending champs tonight. But before we get into all that, we got to talk about the big Thanksgiving win, a little revenge game against Detroit. We're going to talk about that. Yeah. So we got some positiveness to talk about before we get into all the big one tonight. But this is not going to be a long episode today, but it's been a really busy week, and we want to make sure that we talk a little bit about last week and then preview tonight's game. All right, everybody, let's get it. Green and gold over everything. Episode 12. Let's go right now. Man, oh man, my man A Biz Productions always rocking it out for the Legacy Maker Sports Network. I want to make sure I give him a shout out. He's done a lot of our theme music for the network, so wanted to give him a shout out, especially for this one. So he did an amazing job for the show. Now, let's get into it because we're not going to be on long, but we wanted to talk a little bit about last week. Of course, talk about tonight's game and get into all of that fun stuff. We're in December. For those who don't know me, it is the sexiest month of the year. My birthday is on December 15th, sexiest day of the year. But very excited because we're officially in the sexiest month of the year. And there's some good things on Matt LaFleur's part on that end, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's talk about last week. Last week was a glorious, glorious, glorious week. Or Thanksgiving was a glorious, glorious day for us. Week 12 was glorious for us, Packer enthusiasts. Packers get the win over the Lions 29-22, and just a great job. Great job by the Green Bay Packers in last week's contest. Look, going into this game, there was a lot of angst. We didn't really know what Packers team we would see. We saw what happened the first time they played the Lions. Things didn't go too hot the first time they played Detroit out there in Lambeau. And at that time, I believe, and I could be wrong on that, but last time the Packers had beat the Lions, I believe, was earlier in 2021. So lost at the end of 2021, got swept last year, and then lost the beginning game this year. So they were on a 4-game losing streak to the Detroit Lions. Now, as a Packer enthusiast myself, I have been a fan since 1991, 1992. So right around the time Favre came in, I was about 7 years old. Big Sterling Sharp guy. Big Sterling Sharp guy. He's the whole reason why I am a Packer enthusiast. Big time Sterling Sharp fans. Needs to be in the Hall of Fame. That's besides the point. But my whole Packership, I've never seen um, this streak, the Detroit Lions streak. Maybe the Vikings, but even then, it never really was a streak per se. A couple here and there, but spoiled, you can say, spoiled Packer enthusiasts, where we've just haven't seen those type of things. So seeing Detroit, of all places, get this streak going, I went into this game thinking, maybe not so much. Maybe you don't, if you can go in there and compete, and have a good showing. That's what I was thinking. Now, the Packers at the time had won 2 out of their last 3. They probably should have won 3 straight. They should have beat Pittsburgh, but I digress. You beat both LA teams, should have beat Pittsburgh, looking in a good spot coming into Detroit. Best thing about those couple of weeks is the better play of Jordan Love. You saw Jordan Love play better. You thought, okay, look at this. Love's playing good. Watson was trying to find his footing, which he did in this game, but we'll get into that. And you got a chance to see what it could be. Once again, we saw that early in the season. We started seeing it again, what it could be from Jordan Love and this young Packers team. So I look at it and just say, like, what's this game going to be like? Well, this is what this game was like. It starts off Packers right off the bat. You see Jordan hit, you see him hit Christian Watson on a 53-yard bomb right off the bat. I mean, just not playing around. Just hit him with the 53-yarder right off the bat. And I said, man, that's how we're going to do things. And, within, a matter of time, you see Jaden Reed get in the end zone on a 10-yard touchdown pass, 5 plays, 75 yards, 2 minutes and 44 seconds. That's it. Right down the field. Packers in business. Good job, right? Then they let Detroit come right back at you. Sam Laporta, 7-yard touchdown pass. He's in there doing his thing. Sam Laporta, who's having a great year for the Detroit Lions, an absolute great year for the Detroit Lions. Young rookie tight end. And he comes in. They go on a 7-play, 73-yard drive. And right there, we're sitting at a 7-6 game because they missed the extra point. Then the Packers really crank it up a little bit. A nice drive, 10 plays, 75 yards. They get down the field, 5 minutes and 22 seconds, eating up the clock. And then they cap it off with a great play call by Matt LaFleur. And you see Jordan Love find Mr. Tucker Kraft, one of the other rookie tight ends on this team, for a touchdown, who's coming into the starting role with the loss of Luke Musgrave. So I'm like, all right, okay, cool. Up 14-6. Good deal. Well, it gets a little better. Thing on the next drive, maybe like a couple of seconds after the drive, big job by Rashawn Gary, gets the strip sack. You see Jonathan Owens, my little cousin, not really my cousin, but my little cousin, come up with the big play to score the touchdown. Now all of a sudden, Jonathan and the Packers are all of a sudden up 20-6, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a good deal. You go into halftime, Anders Carlson, he knocks down the field goal after he had missed that extra point after the Jonathan Owens touchdown. So now you're looking like, okay, 23-6. It's a good deal. Can they keep it going? Well, right off the bat in the next half, you see David Montgomery, 6 yards. He's in that bad boy, 2-point conversion. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, here we go. How this is going to look. So up 23-14. Well, the Packers never threat. Deeper in the third quarter, Christian Watson, who had already had a pretty good game, he goes in there. He gets a 16-yard touchdown. And then the Packers are up, 29-14 at the time. And then, Lions will score late. Josh Reynolds, 12-yard touchdown. But it didn't make a difference. What I saw in this contest was a Packers team that was able to go up and down the field, play great defense. Rashawn Gary, who is my defensive player of the week on one-on-one. So shout out to Rashawn Gary, the man we just signed for a whole bunch of dough. He goes out there, does a really good job. And defensively, I mean, I just felt like they played a complete football game for the first time all season. Now, they've had some games where, even in the Rams game, it was a little shaky at times, but I felt this one was the most complete game that they've had all season. And against a team who was 8-2, the number 2 seed in the NFC, and they beat up on Green Bay in week 4, 34-20. So you come back, you see this, it's a good deal. Something great to see, something to make you smile if you're a Packer enthusiast. So a good win for Green Bay. A great day for the Packers. Now, my offensive player of the game in this one, I could have went a couple of different routes. But I decided to go with the guy. Let's talk about the guy, Mr. Jordan Love. A lot of people are starting to jump on the Jordan Love bandwagon because of his play over the last couple of weeks, and in a situation where the Packers could easily have went 4-0. And in my mind, Green Bay should be 9-2. And the only real games that they, in my opinion, yes, they lost the games, but the only games they really lost, like they just never competed in, was the Vikings game and the first Lions game. They just never competed. They weren't in those games per se. I mean, they lingered around in the Vikings game, but they were never really in it. The Lions game gave false hope initially after the interception, and after that, it was all Lions. David Montgomery had a field day. But in this one, Jordan Love, 22 for 32, 268 yards passing, and then he had 3 touchdowns with a quarterback rating of 125.5. Now, he had, I think last week it was like 105, but consistently having great days. The 3 touchdowns, no picks, and he's taking really good care of the football. He just love what I've seen from Jordan. I thought that A.J. Dillon, sexy, not sexy yards wise, but 14 carries, 43 yards, still had a solid day. A thing that I like that they're doing, 2 things I like that they're doing. Jordan knows when to take off and make a little, do a little something here and there. He had a big one for 37 yards. His mobility kind of gives that little bit of a threat for the Packers. So you're like, okay, cool. Let's see what they can do. So J Love, 39 yards in the ground. He was the second leading rusher. Jaden Reed, who's been absolutely phenomenal. Just love Jaden Reed. My man Randall Burns, who unfortunately he was a little sick this week. Deshaun was a little bit running around. They'll be hopefully back next week as we bring you episode 13. And, the one thing that, we always just kind of talk about is like Jaden Reed is receiver 1. At least that's the way he's played this year. He's been absolutely amazing. And so he had two rushes for 16 yards. He scored the opening touchdown. He had 4 receptions, 34 yards. But what I like about what I've seen from Jordan Love, look at the distribution. Now, not sexy numbers, but the distribution is really nice. Christian Watson, 5 receptions, 94 yards in the TD. Malik Heath, who came in, played well, 4 receptions, 46 yards. A.J. Dillon, 3 receptions, 38 yards. Now, if you had a healthy Aaron Jones, I think this cranks up a little bit more. They probably would have won this game by more if they had a healthy Aaron Jones. Romeo Dobbs, 3 receptions, 37 yards. So Reed and Kraft both had touchdowns as well. Kraft had 2. Patrick had 1. And that's what we saw from him. Then, looking at the defensive side of things. So shout out to Jordan Love for our offensive player of the game. Defensive side of the things, this is easy. He was my player of the week on one-on-one. For those who haven't checked out one-on-one, that's where we do our NFL power rankings, and we have great interviews during the offseason. So make sure you check out one-on-one. Now, looking at this, Rashawn Gary, 7 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, had 2 forced fumbles. This is what this young man has shown up and showed out. You give him the money. Usually when you give players money, they don't show up and show out. It's about like a year or so last year where he got hurt in the Detroit game towards ACL. Comes back. He's looking amazing. Shout out to Rashawn Gary, man. Glad you got your money. Glad you're playing well. Love what I see. He's our defensive player of the game. Shout out to Jonathan Owens. 12 tackles on the day. Had the touchdown. Had a tackle for loss. He's playing a lot better. Isaiah McDuffie, who's been playing decent. He had 11 tackles. But what I like from this team, is they're starting to play great all around. It's still interesting to see how they will play things out. But this team is starting to play, good football at the right time. So you look at the Packers and you look at what they have, upcoming. They got the Kansas City Chiefs this week. That was going to be something to behold. So, tonight at 8:15, might be 8:20. I could be wrong on that. But, tonight you will see the Green Bay Packers take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Kansas City comes into this, after a loss. So they're still trying to get themselves, maybe not completely back on focus, but, they're just trying to bounce back a little bit. So this is going to be a game that they're going to come out there and do some good things. They're going to want to come out there and they're going to want to play good football. So you lose the game, you want to come back and do your thing, and that's what they're going to be looking to do. Now, with that being said, this Packers team uh, is going to have a tough challenge tonight. It's going to be a very tough challenge tonight when they take on this Kansas City Chiefs team. Pat Mahomes has always been, obviously the standard bearer for quarterbacks here in the last couple of years. And when Jordan Love came out, all we heard was, he reminds me of Jordan Love. I mean, he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. He's got this, he's got that. I mean, maybe a couple things here and there that you kind of notice and say, man, look at that. He's got potential to be, maybe that good. But when I look at this, I look at this Packers team, and I see them coming into a game against a Chiefs team that's not like, let's be honest with you, they haven't been amazing. They had that game where they end up losing to the Broncos because former Packer Marcus Valdez Scantling, he can't catch the football. So I mean, and it was a bad deal. So they had that game, and there was some struggles there. Then they beat Miami. Then they take care. Well, they lose to Philly. And then they lost, and then they beat the Raiders. So they had bounce back. My apologies on that. So they went Chargers win, lost to the Broncos, kind of a tough loss to the Broncos, win against Miami in a tough one in Germany. Then they play Philadelphia, lose to Philly at home, which is a rare thing. They don't rarely lose at home, but they lose to Philly in a Super Bowl rematch, and then they beat the Raiders. So, like I said, looking into those, they haven't been lighting it up, but the matches have been close, and they're the Chiefs, so they found ways to win. Going into this, I know Randall had sent me something a couple of weeks ago, or said something to me a couple of weeks ago in our group chat. If you look at the numbers, between Jalen Hurts and Love, they're kind of similar. But even if you look at the same thing with Mahomes, they're kind of similar. Mahomes has 9 picks, Jordan has 10. Touchdowns, Mahomes has 21, Love has 19. So looking at those things, you see some comparisons there and the yardage is about like 200 in Mahomes' favor. But like I said, they're kind of together on that. I'm very excited about this matchup because I don't think a lot of people think Green Bay is going to win. Personally, I would be, very surprised if I'd be very surprised if Green Bay wins this game. Not saying that they can't, but I also know who the Chiefs are. And this will be Patrick Mahomes' first time playing at Lambeau. And, superstars tend to show out when they have those first games at majestic places. And so Green Bay is going to have to find a way to temper that. Obviously, Taylor Swift is going to be in the building. So that's going to be all you hear about on the broadcast, which is going to be insane. And Simone Biles is there. Okay. We got Simone Biles. All right. So y'all calm down with that. But that's all you're going to hear about for half of the broadcast, And as much as I love Al Michaels, and I do sometimes like Chris Collinsworth, I do like some of what he's got to do out there. I don't dislike Chris Collinsworth. It's just you're going to hear all that. But this game is a very important game for the Packers. The Packers have a chance. If they can win this game, they could, one, lock themselves up with Minnesota where they're both 6-6. And now they won't get that final playoff spot just yet. Why? Because, well, Green Bay lost to Minnesota, so they'll still kind of be on that outside looking in their circumstances. So if Green Bay can kind of go on a run here, they've got some very winnable games. Very winnable games. So the Packers have the Chiefs this week or tonight. They can win that game. They then have to take on the Giants on the 11th. So if they can beat the Giants, now all of a sudden you're like, okay, they got the Giants, Um, it's a Monday night game, which it hasn't been flexed yet. So if they can beat the Giants, which they should, then they've got the Buccaneers, winnable game. Then they got the Panthers, winnable game. Then they got the Vikings, which under the current situation, winnable game, and the Bears. If the Packers do this right, I think maybe no more than 2 losses, they can still make the playoffs. They're going to have to deal with a Saints team. They're going to have to deal, with a Saints team looking for a spot. You got to deal with a Rams team trying to also get in, and probably, obviously Minnesota, they'll all be in the mix. Plus, you got Seattle, who's now 6-6. So right now there's a mix at the top, and Green Bay still can get in. They can get in. I think the key tonight will be Jordan Love continuing to do what he's done so far. And I think if he can continue to do what he's done these last couple of games, they can win this game. Green Bay's got to play smart football, and you got to have turnovers. You got to get that same mojo going you had in the Lions game. Get those turnovers against a Patrick Mahomes, which is going to be a tough deal. It's not going to be an easy thing, but if you can get those turnovers, things could go in their favor. And I think that Jordan Love and that crew can do enough to win this game. Now, we go all the way back in the time machine. Jordan Love's first ever career start happened against the Chiefs in Kansas City in a game where they almost won it. They almost won that game, or had a chance to win that game, I should say, only losing 13-7. And Mahomes didn't have his best day. Packers defense played pretty well. And obviously, Jordan was a little shaky in that contest. He was still learning. He was still growing. And I think maybe in the back of Jordan's mind, because I think in my heart, I feel like he's the competitor. He knows that game has to be a stain on his memory, and I'm pretty sure he'll be ready to play. So I'm excited about tonight's game. The Chiefs lead the all-time series 8-5-1. There was a tie in there somewhere, but the Chiefs lead the all-time series. They don't play each other all the time. Obviously, they played each other in Super Bowl I, so that was a hot minute ago, and it's been a couple years since they played in that love game when Rodgers was out sick. So now that is what we could see. That's what we're going to get tonight. A very competitive game against two young quarterbacks. And if you're the Packers, you just don't want this thing to get out of hand. So you got to play them tight. Now, here's the injury report as of right now. You got Alexander, who's questionable. Campbell, DeGuaro, Ford, Jaden Reed, Rochelle Savage, who is questionable, but has just been taken off IR. So I'm not 100% sure if he will be playing or not. It definitely would be a boost to the safety room if he is playing tonight. I think missing him is something that has not hurt the team because the younger guys have stepped up, but having him come back is going to be huge, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a really good deal. And then you got Stokes, who's doubtful, and we haven't seen Stokes, but I believe once this year. And you hate to call him a bust, but it's too early for that. But the guy hasn't played, so it's unfortunate. And Dontavian Wicks, who has been a really good addition, former Virginia Cavalier, one of my guys. Whoop, whoop. So tonight's game, very excited. Hope the Packers can get the dub, and it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one from Lambeau, but if you can beat Mahomes, if you think that the talk about Jordan Love is on the rise now, let the Packers win this game tonight, and you will never hear the end of it. You'll never hear that, which is a good thing / bad thing. I just want him to grow slow, and what I mean by that is I want to see him develop, but I don't want the hype train to be all over. I want them to let this guy truly, let him truly develop into the greatness I think he could be. So with that saying, Savage returning tonight. And then a real quick note before we get out of here, former Packer Adrian Amos has been or is going to be released from the Jets. So I don't know if the Packers make a play at that. I mean, he is a former Packer. I don't know if they get him on the cheap. Maybe they bring him in. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that is some news just to kind of have out there. All right, everybody, that's it. A green and gold over everything. Shorter version of the show today. Like I said, sorry that we couldn't bring you the longer version. Our man Randall is sick. Hope he gets better. He's been dealing with some stuff. So hopefully we'll have him back, and Deshaun. I got Deshaun Rucker next week. Hopefully I have both of those guys in here as we get ready to preview the Giants game. Now, also, we're hoping to have our man Cody Stewart come in and talk Giants and Packers next week to give us a preview of that. Once again, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Green and Gold. Green and Gold over everything here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Very excited. Big game tonight. Can the Packers get the dub? I think they can. But, hey, we will see. Until next time, everybody, we'll see you next week for episode 12. 13.